Welcome back to the channel. I just made a beat with the MPC Key 37 and I'm going to talk about this setup. The MPC Key 37 is the main brain doing all the MIDI stuff, but I'm also using Ableton Live to mix everything and some additional plugins as well, along with these pieces of gear that are on the table. So I'm going to talk about that. Here's the beat that I just made. So like I said, everything is being controlled by the MPC Key 37 for all the MIDI and also the drums as well. I've got hats and kick and snare on channel 9 and 10, and that's a sample that I sliced up. It's got that kind of flavor going on. Inside of Ableton, where I'm mixing everything, I've got a drum bus on there, Air Flavor Pro, and also a Valhalla Room to add some just some like liveliness as if it's like in a room sound. In fact, if I solo the MPC and play this, like that's the loop that I basically settled on, something real chill. And now this is what's interesting. With this type of setup right here, even though the MPC Key 37 is in standalone mode, I have the USB cable plugged into the computer. Now what that allows me to do is have two USB ports that I can send from the standalone directly to the computer. Now how does that get applied in practice? Well, if you look at this, I have Pigments and Mini Freak and also Op6. Now I don't have Pigments hardware, obviously, and I don't have the Mini Freak or the Op6 in front of me, but I do have them loaded up in Ableton Live, and that is where this is really cool. So if I look at Pigments right here and look at the MIDI port, you can see it's on USB MIDI port number 1. And then if I go to Pigments over here, you can see it's on MPC Key 37 port 1 and also channel 1, which is what Pigments is. And with Pigments, I also have Air Flavor Pro and Valhalla super massive, and as you can see, so when I go over to the next track, it's Mini Freak. The Mini Freak is on port number 2, channel number 1, which I have port number 2, channel number 1 right there. So if I play this, which is a bass patch. And inside Ableton, I have the compressor hooked up to sidechain to the MPC to give it just a bit of a pump when the kick hits. So if I solo the Mini Freak and the MPC, you will be able to see that in action right there. Kind of glues them together just a little bit more. By the way, this is not a final mix or anything. This is just in the middle of composing and kind of making things gel together. Normally I would take a step back a day later, reassess where everything is. Almost always I'm reshaping the hi-hats a bit or maybe brightening them or lowering them or something like that. It's inevitable because your ears get tired after you've been working for a bit. So it's always good to take a step back either the next day or a week or something like that and see where you're at with a mix and be like, oh, I did like that, or that's too much. But back to the tracks here. I also have the Op6, which I didn't program any MIDI. It's just basically a pad type of sound, which is given some support here. Yeah, I don't know if I'd use that or not. But when it comes to the hardware, I have those all routed through either the USB MIDI for the Argon or the regular MIDI out port of the MPC Key, which is going to the Typhoon, Analog 4, and the Iridium. I wanted to do that to see if I ran into the bug where the MIDI note off type of thing was happening for people. Apparently it's if you're in the same port and then if you play the same note on different channels, it gets cut off. I'm not experiencing that bug. So I tried replicating that for my system and it's not doing that. For instance, if I'm sending like C3 to the Analog 4 and then the Iridium or the Typhoon, they're not cutting each other off in terms of different channels. So MIDI port right here, channel 5, MIDI port, channel 13, Iridium, channel 8. They're not cutting their notes off, so I'm not sure what's going on. I know some people are having some issues with that. For me, I have not had that issue. But anyways, I got the argon. Got another pad sound right here. And that's also got Valhalla super delay, or super massive, not super delay. Then obviously the Typhon, which has nothing, it's just being monitored in Ableton. And I like messing with the Typhon a lot. So for instance, if I solo the Typhon and play it, yeah, all that reverb is coming from the Typhon, by the way. That's not in Ableton or anything like that. But yeah, that's really fun performance thing right there, because I can be doing stuff and then just tweaking the knobs as the beat goes by. And then I got the Analog 4 Mark II from Electron. I've had this piece for a long time, actually, several years. Recently, though, I haven't really been using it for the sequencer. I've been using it for sound type of stuff. I always found the oscillators and the filter have a real character to them. And I'm always waiting to see an Analog Keys Mark II come out. And obviously it hasn't, but Electron, if you're ever listening, I would love to check out an Analog Keys Mark II. That would be amazing. It would be an immediate buy for me, honestly. Or maybe an Analog Keys 8 voice. That would be nice, right? Anyways, I digress. So I'm using that as a sound box, essentially. Just has great character. Really enjoy it. So I got that, and then the Iridium, obviously. It's this Richard Devine patch that is very sparkly. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'm adding something else as well. Another Valhalla Supermassive. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that plugin. It's free as well. Might as well go pick it up if you haven't yet. So yeah, with all of that mixed together, yeah, I played that A flat note and I was like, I'm just gonna ride with it. But as time has gone by, I might actually end up changing the A flat. It was in this guy. It's like an A flat that's happening against a E flat major chord. First I was like, that's cool. And then I don't know, the more I hear it, I'm like, I should probably change it. Anyways, that's what happens, right? So yeah, MPC Key 37, basically one of my first beats with this guy. Really digging it so far. I knew I would. This is definitely something that's right up my alley, because this is basically what I want to do. You know, I want to have a keyboard set up with sound modules and also being able to control stuff inside of Ableton as well. Always really cool. You do end up missing the hands-on control with something like Pigments. I could get some sort of device to control things externally, but I don't have anything hooked up at the moment. And honestly, with the way this is set up, I don't think I really need another piece of gear on the table, right? By the way, I have this all set up via templates. So inside the MPC Key 37 right now, if I go a new project and hit user template, it recalls basically this whole session without any MIDI. If I want to just suddenly recreate this, I can just go user template, and then I have a blank slate to start with. And the same thing in Ableton, I have a template. As soon as I load it up, everything is monitored and it's ready to go for recording. Also, a couple videos back, I did a discussion with the MPC One and the Phantom keyboard, which is very similar to this type of setup right here. Something that I didn't mention in that video is preset recall, because you're probably curious, like once you've done a jam or you want to come back to it, say in the next day or a week or something like that, or for performance, you know, you have a setup for performance, how would you recall something like this? Actually pretty easy. So what I always do is I copy the sequence and I say preset recall. And it's going to go to number 2, but whatever sequence number you want for the preset recall. Now, I always do it in a separate sequence because when you keep on sending program change notifications to synths, some of them get a little weird about it, or some of them reload every single time, which is not what you want in the middle of your jam or performance. So I have one sequence that literally just recalls everything. Then I'd go back to the original sequence to perform or jam. So I'm on the Argon. If I hit patch on the Argon, I can see it's patch number 354. So what I want is program change 354. Now, if I go like this, you'll see it jumps to 301, 304, all that, and it's in the 300 range. In order to get access to different sound ranges, you have to either mess with the MSB or the LSB. So if I go like this, 0, now it's on the zeros. If I go 1, it's on the 100s, 200s, 300s. So then the program change, I would just go up to 354. Done. Now every time I play this, it loads that. See, it said loaded. So play again, loaded. Which is one of the reasons why you don't want to have it on your main sequence. You want to have it on a preset recall sequence. Now I'm not going to go through each one of these to show you how to do that because each synth can be a little bit different. Some of them will use MSB, some of them will use LSB, just depends on the synth, and you have to experiment with it. And something like the Iridium, you have to actually save into a favorites and then recall through the favorites. So you have to consult your synthesizer's manual for that type of information. If you are curious about any of this gear, I will link it below. They will be affiliate links, so if you do purchase through those affiliate links, then it helps out the channel. We get a cut at no additional charge to you. But yeah, that's the video. That's basically my first beat on the Key 37, and really enjoying this platform. Appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time for another one. Peace.